with What If 360's What If Wednesday, and today we have Gillian Faith, and she is going to be asking the question, what if I didn't have ADD, ADHD? And first we'll get to know Gillian, Gillian Faith, and she is, I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell you a little bit about her.
This is so dangerous, just giving me an opportunity to introduce myself. And because the topic is what it is, who knows how long I go for, right? So thank you. So introduce myself. If you had asked me to do that about a year and a half ago, I would have said that I was working in an office and I was a program facilitator doing outreach and working with foster parents, which was kind of par for the course. I'd been doing 20 years of outreach, working as a mental health outreach worker, social worker, counseling field, been committed to doing that type of work, basically frontline, mental health and addictions, social work. And then I made this giant leap to where I am right now. When I say that for 20 years I was doing that, that sounds like, what? How can you have ADHD and do the same thing? Let me be really clear. Over those 20 years, I never had the same job. So I jumped around a lot in that period of time, but I always did the same type of work. So I really devoted myself over a long-term career to helping people in whatever profession I could. But 8-9 years ago is when I had a major physical transformation in my life, and following the birth of my youngest, I started the journey to lose about 100 pounds. So I made a major physical, personal, emotional transformation and started that process. And what started to happen was people kind of said, like, how did you do it? How did you do this, you know, while you worked full time, while you were a busy mom? How did you raise kids? I had gone through a divorce. We struggled with food banks while I was working, and people kept saying, how did you do it? How did you do it? And so one thing led to another, where my Facebook page that I was supporting people with, health and wellness, got too busy for me to answer the demands of messages and support people. And I really felt like the next step was for me to take that leap from what I was doing in social work and counseling and jump into some form of life coaching or inspirational teaching. And I left the office. I left what I was doing that was like a consistent 2-week paycheck. And, you know, there was safety in that, but at the same time, I felt like there was more that I was supposed to do, and I was always ready for a challenge. And so that's what I did. 18 months ago, I started what I'm doing right now, which is Gillian Faith, Real Change for Real People. And I provide everything from speaking, writing, facilitating, teaching, not so much the life coaching, because what I'm finding is that not a lot of people really want to get to the root cause and want to get to why they're where they are. And I'm kind of a no BS type girl. And a lot of people just are not ready for that. And I'm not prepared to just sell a product that people aren't ready to chew on. So I focus a lot on trying to facilitate and do speaking from the stage about my story and my transformation, and being a mom to the kids that I've got, and just building my career.
That is so cool. That's definitely a common characteristic and trend that we have with people who have been speaking and involved in the What If 360 community. People who have just created these new positions for themselves or places in the world based on what they care about and how they can help in the world socially. So it's very cool that you did that. So segueing into your what if question, how, you know, you're asking how, what if I didn't have ADD? So tell us how that correlates into this story of how you got to where you are now.
Okay, well, I'll back it up a little and say that my daughter Faith is, my greatest inspiration, really. And I asked her that this morning. I said, Faith, I'm doing this, this interview or this chat this afternoon, and I said, this is what we're going to talk about is, what if Mom didn't have ADHD? And she looked at me just so confused, and she said, what if we didn't have ADHD? That would be horrible. I said, I know, wouldn't it? She said, well, if you didn't have ADHD, then I wouldn't have ADHD. And then Cameron wouldn't have ADHD. And, well, then nobody would understand me. And I thought, that's so eloquent, because I was explaining to somebody yesterday, and I've explained again today, I had a really great chat with somebody today, that we've kind of popularized. Did I just make up that word? I think I might have. We've kind of come to this place in society right now where we say, oh, everybody has ADHD, and oh yeah, I have ADHD, and we think that just because you have distractibility, or just because you multitask, or something might be challenging for you, that you have ADHD. And I think that it really devalues those of us who genuinely struggle with it, have the diagnosis, and have the barriers to success that we do. And so it's frustrating for me because for myself, for Faith, for Cameron, my two children that struggle with it, we see it as not a label to shame or to devalue, but this is part of our identity. This is who we are, and it's a success. It's something that we see as our worth, it's our value, it's a positive, it's something in our life, in our home that we champion. I can't show you, but we actually have t-shirts that say ADHD, but they actually are in the logo font of AC/DC. So it's like rock on. And we wear those proudly. We actually went to camp last summer and we showed up wearing our AC/DC, our ADHD t-shirts. And a mom said, like, you're okay with that? Like, you wear those and are you and your kids on meds? And I said, yeah, we are. Like, would you not give your diabetic child insulin? Like, this is where we're at. This is where, as a family, we are at. And in order to function and in order to be successful as a family, this is how my family functions and how we are successful. If I would like the garbage to not be left in my son's room for 3 months, then my son needs to take medication. And so, for myself, I was diagnosed with ADHD by an allergist by the name of Dr. Chetty, and I called him Dr. Cheddar Cheese, my parents tell me, when I was 6. I went on and off medications for a number of years, and from about the age of 18 until I think I was about 28, 29, I didn't go on medication. And then when I started to do actual casework, social work, I couldn't do it. I could not manage casework. I had too difficult of a time being able to multitask and not be distracted by the number of tasks between phone calls coming in, documents that I had to record, people coming in my door, documents that I had to keep track of and write, filing, what did I say to somebody? Where am I supposed to put that? What's supposed to go somewhere? I'm supposed to pick up somebody from school. What am I supposed to do? And so I took myself back in to a psychologist, and I said, here's my situation. Like, I'm a 29, 30-year-old adult. I'm a completely functioning member of society. I'm very bright. I have a university degree that I needed support to get through. I'm a mom, and I want to be successful. Like, how do I do this? And we did a reassessment, and we went through everything. And I was like off the charts, like, for being re-diagnosed as an adult with ADHD. And I said, what concerns me is that I think I'm going to cause an accident on the highway. Like I said, because I'm doing this all the time. Like, oh, I love her skirt. Like, oh, what's that person wearing? And, my kid would ask me to look at something while they're like, Mama, what's this? And I'd forget that I was driving. Or I'd, want to answer my phone, and I realized I was actually at risk. And so I thought, am I to be more concerned with taking medication to help me focus and concentrate? Am I more concerned with what my friends are going to say about, you take meds? Oh, you put your kids on meds? Why don't you just change your diet? Like, I just thought, like, this is silliness. So I came to understand that it was more of a society issue than it was a my issue. And that for me, I've come to accept that I need to do what's best for me, and I need to advocate that when I hear people say, oh, we all have ADHD. Actually, no, we don't. I pulled up some really neat statistics because I know them in my head, but I just thought I would share a couple with you because I think that awareness is really important. When people say everybody has ADHD, in true fact, by research standards, what I understand, what it tells us is that 97% of people are easily 97% is the statistic for ADHD people, and only 2% of the community population are actually easily distracted by extraneous stimuli. So basically what that's telling us is that when people say, oh, everybody is easily distracted, actually 97% of ADHD people are genuinely distracted by stimuli, and 2% of the population can actually get their attention again in a situation where there's ongoing stimuli. So in a grocery store, I'm like this, like, holy smokes, like, what's happening, right? In a classroom, my daughter Faith, really challenged. So when you're looking at situations like that and how someone is to be successful, we have to be really mindful. That's where I'm at.
I'm the same. I have ADD as well, but but I didn't know that I had it until
yes, you were mentioning
recently. Yeah, I didn't know that. I just thought that I'm just a creative person, and I've got so much going on all the time, and so I had no idea. And then once I was diagnosed with it, then I started looking.
You were like, oh.
Well, like all the symptoms that I didn't really know were involved in it, like relationship issues and like things that I can, work commitments and changing things all the time. And I thought, oh my God, a lot of my life.
It's empowering though, right?
Yeah. But
well, I was just going to jump in and say, I think that what you said is really important, and that's the creative part, is that if we can choose to look at it as a positive, which is what I'm trying to emphasize, and that's that it's not a negative label. In fact, it is a label, and that's okay. And for myself as a social worker, I always said to parents and to families that I worked with, especially foster parents or people that would say, oh, I don't want to label a kid. And I would say, okay, but we need labels in order to be able to get a healthy diagnosis, to move forward, to get support, to do what we need to do. And if we can look at it from a strength-based perspective, instead of saying, I don't want that label, but instead we can say, I'm willing to accept the label of creative. I'm willing to accept the label of I'm chatty Cathy and a social butterfly. Like, those are positive labels. If somebody's going to say, you're a fitness buff, are you going to say, no, I'm not? Like, you have a fantastic junk in the trunk. Like, we accept positive labels, so it's just how you spin it, right? So most people with ADHD, Albert Einstein, and brilliant minds, they are all of these things that we somehow have gotten our heads spun around as being negative, but in fact they're really positives. And so it's just all reframing it. It's taking that what if 360, right? 360 turn and saying, how do I change my perspective, turn it around and say, no, this is actually a really great thing, and I want to empower people with this new way of thinking. So I am totally all about relationships. Do I sometimes have a really hard time making them? Am I better with men than I am with women? Has it gotten me into trouble over time? Yeah, sometimes. So then, because I know that now, I can say, I need some help with that. Do I have a hard time with authority because I take things too personal? Yeah, so now that I know that, instead of saying that's a negative, I need you to help me with that, right? So instead of looking at it all as a negative, this is awareness, this is what I know, and I can partner with other people who are like me instead of it being shunned and going, so we just need to work together, I think, and have more awareness as adults, and it not just being a kid issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, too, that it needs to be looked at a little bit differently than always just looking at the individual and what can we do to fix this person who has ADD, or, you know, how can I work with this person? Well, rather we could say, how can we, you know, what if we change the environment that surrounds a person with ADD? You know,
Yes.
I have a hard time working in an office in an office setting with people all sitting quietly and doing their work and staring and, you know, having certain break times and doing things. I can't do it.
Yes.
But I can work wonderfully in a coffee shop with ambient sound and lots of distraction and things going on. And so rather than try to conform me to everyone else's settings, why are we not changing the settings?
Yes,
you know, and the same thing with children and with, you know, it's understanding the whole 360 view of everything and then making those kind of changes.
It is. I think that we're not there yet, and that's part of what this conversation is about and what we can hopefully get to. We've come far or farther for kids, but I think there's a big misconception, again, for adults, because we do continue to say, oh, we all have ADHD. As adults, but we don't actually truly understand that adults do need that different environment. I'm thankful to work somewhere called the Kamloops Innovation Center, and there is quite a great deal of variety. You know, some people sit on balls, some people sit at a big long community table. Like, there is some variety, but you know, when I think about my daughter Faith's needs, and what she really requires, there's not as much understanding of what she needs from an occupational therapy standpoint. There's some flexibility, but you know, we saw a big ball yesterday, you know, one of the therapy balls, and she said, like, Mom, like, I need to bounce on that, like, I need to sit, because in order for her to work successfully, she has to sit outside of the classroom, wear her earphones, do her times tables, count them out loud. And last week she got in trouble because she was too loud. She was 4 times 4 is 8 times 8 is, and then she got told to be quiet because she was being too loud. So of course, you know, her response, also being autistic, was, you need to not tell me to be quiet, you need to leave me alone, right? Very, very bold. And the teacher said, well, you can't tell me to be quiet. And she said, well, I'm telling you to be quiet because I can't do my times tables if you're standing here, right? So when the teacher said to me, well, she can't tell a teacher to be quiet, I said, but in her linear thinking, if the teacher's quiet, then she can do her work. So how do you consequence a learner like that who needs the space, needs to bounce, and in her linear thinking, I could continue doing what I'm doing if this person would just stop interrupting me. So trying to explain to her, you can't, like, it's too abstract. So adults are no different. If I'm being put in a tiny cubicle and told to work and to get this report done by 4:30, but 8:30 to 4:30 isn't my prime working hours, and I would work best in a coffee shop with loud music between the hours of 2:30 and 10:30, right? Like, so we really need to start being more flexible and understanding of the fact that people have multiple different learning styles. For myself, I just was talking to somebody today saying, I'm terrified about going to Toronto. Like, in April, I have to fly to Toronto. I have to figure out how to get from an airport to, you know, the conference. I don't know how to do a rental car. I don't know how to figure out how to get the plane tickets. Like, that's part of my learning disability, is I'm greatly challenged with technology, like I've, you know, shared with you. Those aren't skills that I have. Too many instructions, too many steps, maps, those kind of things are huge struggles for me. So, you know, I had learning disability status all through school. Every psychological assessment that I've ever had has identified that. And yet I was able to graduate from university. That's part of who I am. And as an empowerment expert, if I can tout myself as an expert, I would say I got there because I refused to give up, and because I believe that anything is possible if you commit yourself to that, and that there is no way that somebody would tell me that being nothing is accurate. So when my teacher told me in grade 5, you are nothing, I didn't accept that. I said, there will be a way. There is a way. And there continued to be a way. And so I had tutors. I went to the Sylvan Learning Center. I had parents that when public schools kicked me out, a private Christian school was the only one that would accept me, thank goodness, right? And I had small classrooms and great teachers, and I was able to get that learning disability status in college and university, and I found my way through the system and was able to cross the university stage. And so, you know, I don't have to be good at math. I never had chemistry. I never had physics. I never had biology. I never had a second language. And booyah, I have a Bachelor of Arts degree, right? So, you know, I believe that my 2 kids can do the same thing if that's what they wish to do, is to go to post-secondary. But can I figure out how to get myself plane tickets into Toronto? Probably. Do I need a lot of help to do it? Yeah, probably. Like every challenge we can figure out, but you know, we know what our skills are, and we know what they're not. So
so tell me some actual things that you can say. What if you did not have ADD? Where would you think your life would be right now?
I think it would be so boring. I thought about this, and Faith and I talked about this, and I said, oh gosh, I think I would probably still be in the same job. I mentioned this, I think, to you as well, that when I first graduated from university, I was working at, I took the first job that I got working for a school district as a teaching assistant in a kindergarten classroom. And we used to sit around in circles singing crisscross applesauce. And today I just told you that I got tripped by like grade 2 kids, and I was like, oh! So I can't imagine that I would be still sitting in a kindergarten classroom singing crisscross applesauce. You know, I lasted, I think, a year, not even, as a teaching assistant, and I was so bored, and I loved within, 6 months, 8 months, all of a sudden working in the alternative education program with teenagers that had conduct disorder, and I was like, give me a challenge. I was like, give me a kid that throws a desk. Give me somebody that's threatening. Give me the next challenge. And I realized I was good at it. And then I started, working with kids with autism and kids that had greater behavioral challenges. And then I thought, well, I'm really good at this, so maybe I should try my hand at social work. And then from social work went on to the next challenge, and then it was, working at a youth shelter, and then a transition house. And so yes, there's the ADHD piece, which is grass is greener, and let me try that. And then I started, teaching workshops, and I was a keynote speaker, by the time I was 22. So it was always like, let's keep going, let's keep trying. So the thought of, I guess, just being stable or satisfied or sedentary in that one kindergarten classroom, I can't imagine just putting up poster boards in the hallway, with A to Z written on them, or writing on the chalkboard, today is Wednesday, I'm meant for so much more. And yes, I've lost, and yes, I've won, and yes, I've experienced heartache, and yes, I haven't won things by taking risk all the time, but I think that in our loss and in our taking chances, we become stronger. Have I always made the right choices? No, not at all. But I certainly think that I've grown stronger as a result of them.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point to make in this conversation, is maybe for people who have not identified the positives of having ADD, and it's sinking into me too that something you can take from this is to start thinking about that in that positive way. What aspects of the fact that I have had ADD have pushed me to where I am now? Mm-hmm. Rather than looking at it from a negative perspective of, which I did, reflected quite a bit on the negative aspect of it, was, wow, my life was a freaking mess because I kept changing things and doing things, and then looking at it the other way around with look at all of the things I have accomplished. And people listen to the stories of my life and they're like, oh my God, you have done so many different things. Like, yeah, because I never could stay still and I took lots of risks. And just like you said, sometimes I made bad decisions. But if I didn't have that characteristic, that trait, that, you know, and that whatever that little spark is in my head that tells me I can't stay still, I have to do something different. If I didn't have that, I would have, I'm the same as you. I don't know what the heck I would have been doing.
Yeah, the people that I've met along the way, the experiences I've had, and the people, like, you know, so my mom and my sister, bless them, but like my sister's been in the same job or thereof, in the same ministry, the same government agency as a social worker or a team leader for like 25 years or something like that. So stable pension, you know, insurance plan, and it sounds so safe. Like it is. It's so safe. And so I've been questioned on that many times, and I look back and I think, sure, like if I had stayed with the school district, I'd have a healthy pension right now. I don't have a pension right now. Like, I'm self-employed. I'm a social entrepreneur. I'm a speaker. I get paid when I get gigs, and so yeah, there's a risk in that, right? Absolutely. If I had stayed with the school district from 1997, 1998 to now, absolutely, I'd have a kick-ass pension, right? I didn't. Or if I'd stayed with the health authority, same thing. Or I'd stayed with a ministry, for sure. They were great agencies, fantastic pension. But I followed my gut. Like, I followed my gut. And as a result of doing that, the people that or framework it presents itself, it's no longer going to be in that same context. So I struggle with the word deal a little bit. And in our house, I try to look at things differently. I try to embrace them, as hard as that is, because this is real. Like, it's hard. Like, we've done everything, especially when I was doing it on my own. It's really hard, right? Like, we've done everything from, pick symbols on the walls, social stories, labeled, labels on the backpacks. We've had pictures on desks, you've got journals, you transition with teachers, you have individual education plans, you do case conferences, like, you do everything. And so it's really hard when friends and families say, you got kids on meds? It's like, yeah, I've done everything. Like, I'm doing everything. And if you have any idea what it's like in my house and what life is like, then you might actually do the same thing. And, when you've changed diets and you've done everything you can, it's like somebody trying to question your cancer treatment, when you're going through cancer. I remember when my dad was going through cancer, and people would kind of question, like, well, has he tried this? And has he tried that? And it's like, really? Like, really? Walk a few steps in my shoes. So I think that I embrace the fact that my kids are who they are. My kids are unique. I don't look at it as a weakness. I don't look at who they are and how they are as being abnormal. It is what it is. And sometimes it's really crazy, but they're really well-behaved, really awesome kids. And you either love us or you don't. And if you've had enough, then it's time for you to go.
Well, I think a lot of that is just based on conformity too. I mean, like, what is your normal? If people are asking you, oh, are your kids on medication, or do they have this, and how do you deal with that, or whatever? It's really just trying to conform people to what a full normal is. And if you take that away and say, there is no normal, so there's nothing to conform to. It's just yourself. It's your life, yourself with your kids, and it's how you do things. So you doing all these interventions with teaching and learning and things at home for behavior and whatever. The only reason that you question and that seems weird and hard is because it's not the norm that other people are doing with their kids.
Totally.
So it's all about perspective.
Yeah, I think we just need to be really cautious around judging and around what people do. I mean, there are things that I look at what other parents do, and I think, man, you're a wackadoo. Like, seriously, I would not feed my 2-year-old sushi to save my life. But you know what? Hey, you want to feed your kid sushi. Like, so, I mean, everybody does what they want want to do, right? And it's a completely different day and age, and we embrace what other parents are doing, and we need to be respectful of it. And so I ask for the same extension of grace, you know, and I think that we're in this day and age of social media where people feel the need to give their opinion and their input on absolutely everything, and that because there's a forum to do so, it seems that there's this essence of truth-telling, and that because I have a platform to do so, I guess I'm allowed to say whatever I want, and there's no filter. And I think we need to still be very mindful and respectful of people's feelings, and that these are people's lives. So, you know, sometimes I share things, sometimes I share heartache, sometimes I don't. I shared Faith's diagnosis when she was diagnosed in the fall, but I don't share a lot. Sometimes I share funny kind of Faithisms about things she says or things she doesn't, but it's always in a very positive. I don't share about the heartache. I don't share about, you know, the sleepless nights. I don't share about what happened last night, you know, when I was up at 4 with her. I don't share about those things on social media. That's my private life. That's, you know, those are the challenges that I have with her and what she goes through. You know, there are other arenas that I think we can do that.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I had somebody tell me not too long ago and criticize the fact that I said that I had ADD on social media.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, you know, if you talk about that, that may be negative to you. What if you want to change your job or someone wants to hire you or something, and that could post negatively? And I thought, I don't like that stigma. I think that needs to change.
Yeah.
Because that's not the same as saying I'm lazy or it's not the same thing, you know?
Well, it's the same thing as I voiced that I had anxiety and depression and a background of self-harm and suicide about a year ago, and it was funny because it wasn't during Mental Health Week, and yet
it's okay if it's during Mental Health Week.
when it's during Mental Health Awareness Week, it's okay, but it wasn't. And I just want to let you know that during Mental Health Awareness Week, that's when you can tell people that you have anxiety and depression and a background in suicide attempts. But if you acknowledge that you have any mental health issues at all outside of that 1 week period, you may get ostracized as a professional. So
bear that in mind.
Bear that in mind. And don't ever speak from the stage as a professional about those issues. But if you're wanting to advocate for a cause and raise awareness, then you should do it within that 1 week period. Like, I was lambasted. Like, Gillian, people look at you as a professional. Like, are you sure that you can give advice and you can speak on this matter? Like, are you sure? Like, I was like, are you kidding? Like, are we Jesus? Like, are we supposed to seriously, like, have it all together? Like, all the frickin' time. So I think there's, like, a real misconception that we as professionals, as parents, as coaches, as consultants, as speakers, as professionals, are supposed to have it all together. And I really would like to just say that's a bunch of bunk. Like, we just do not. And it's a really hard line to walk when people are looking to you to have this perfect life, and we don't. And I try to demystify that all the time, like, whether it's I don't wear makeup, or I go, like, here's a video snapshot of me and my kids, here's, like, whatever it is. But, you know, I was talking to somebody even this morning in Toronto about the whole, you know, airport fiasco thing, and I said that these are my challenges, and she goes, oh, it's fine, I work with clients like that all the time. And I said, well, respectfully, I said, but this is me. Like, I'm saying, like, I'm your client then, because this is a challenge for me. And I said that's not understood in this professional community. Like, if you and I are equals, then how would you address that? Because there's an assumption that, professionals are not going to have any kind of learning disability, any kind of cognitive impairment. I have a fantastic personal trainer that works within my circle. He's dyslexic, totally full-blown dyslexic, and he cannot. He sends me everything before he posts it because all his words are backwards and all his words are mixed up. So, you know, we make an assumption that as professionals we've got it all together, and I'm like, no, I'm sorry, we don't. We need to really team together and support each other.
That's a whole new way of thinking of things. It really is.
Oh, imagine.
That people don't talk about. They don't talk about that I have an MD, I have an MBA, but I have trouble working on one specific report for more than an hour and a half before I need to change gears.
That's
or
right.
I need to, but that in regular people world, that is a negative against me as a possible employee.
Absolutely. That's right.
What the hell?
Yeah.
It's like it's just thinking of things differently, or looking at someone's resume and the fact that they've had 8 different jobs in 12 years.
I know.
That does not make me, which is, by the way, my resume pretty much. But like a regular HR person, they might shuffle that and throw that out, saying, oh, they can't commit to anything. But, oh my gosh, the stuff that I've learned by being in those different positions, it doesn't mean that I failed. It means that I learned enough and moved on to something new because it was boring me.
And maybe it was choice. Yeah. I was interviewed yesterday for an online magazine that wants me to do weekly columns, and we were talking about this very matter, and she said it's a big assumption that I have a journalism degree. She's the editor for the magazine, and she said I didn't even graduate from high school. We were talking about the nonprofit charity that I'm running, and that the next event is going to be for women who haven't graduated from high school. They later went back to school and got their GED, their grade 12 equivalency, and she said I went back in my mid-20s, but she said I don't have a degree in journalism, I don't have anything, and I'm the editor of the magazine. But she goes to all these different networking events, and people say, oh, where did you get your journalism degree? And she's like, I didn't even graduate from high school. But people completely make this assumption that she has, but she's got 20 years of experience in writing and editing magazines. So, we need to be really mindful of what people bring to the table and be respectful, because we go into these circles like conferences, and it'll happen at What If. Where did you go to school? Where'd you graduate from? What's your degree in? What's your major? What circle are you in? Who are you? What are you affiliated with? And it's like, how about just who are you? What do you love to do? What are you passionate about?
I think you just created a new what if conversation. That is, what if we just ask who you are rather than what is your degree or where did you come from?
Absolutely, right? Well, I'm really one of the things that's on my project table, my startup right now, is putting together a Vancouver Island tour. So I'm in the works to create that right now. So I'll throw that out at you guys. That I'm trying to do a startup right now for a Vancouver Island speaking tour, hopefully to base it out of Nanaimo. Do you know where Nanaimo is? I'll throw that out. It's in Nanaimo. It's small. But I want to do it, and it's basically on the next big idea stemming from my video on ideas. And it would be really just based on, like, why do we sit on ideas, and the whole concept of idea, and that why do we get stuck on, let's keep it up here, but bringing together people who have ideas, and what do we do? What is that big what if? And now what? So I want to have a conference, and I want to be able to bring together people that have that same mindset, so that it's not always about where did you go to school and, what's this piece of paper, but what is your idea? Like, how do we actually take it into an action phase? So I'm partnering together with people that I work with on the island, and anybody else that wants to be interested in that, probably for November. And I think she froze again. That's awesome. I gotta go and get Faith, or go to her basketball game. I don't even know. Where are you going right now? Can you show me? No. Do you have a vehicle? How did you get here? So you borrowed a car?
Yeah. So small, the elementary. What happens on
It starts at 3. So I gotta finish this. This was only supposed to be 20 or 30 minutes.
On our website, so you.
Oh, and then it just went away again.
Hey, hey.
Hi.
Okay, I don't know how much that we caught. I tried to talk in the middle of it, but and see if I was frozen or you were frozen. But I'll just reiterate, and since I'm not sure what happened, that what you were leading up to with talking about ideas and the conference ideas that you have is the conferences that we have coming up for What If 360.
Yeah.
Which so cool that that we've been talking about education and kind of changing the face of education in ways that embrace the way kids learn and the way people learn. And the conference that we have coming up in Asheville on February 27th and 28th is Reinventing Education. So the speakers that we have at that conference are going to be, it's just going to be all about changing the face of education within the institutions that are already existing, creating new schools, new ways of learning. It's going to be very cool.
So
we
cool.
have tickets on our website now for that, and I believe until Sunday they're $150, so it's I think a $50 off deal. And then we have What If Vancouver, which is where you're going to be speaking, and that is, I know, I'm so excited for you. It's March 15th or 14th and 15th, and there'll be you and then 22 speakers in total, I believe, and then I think at least 10 different workshops over a 3-day period. It's going to be a huge, epic event, and I'm so excited about it happening. So, and what is your question for that?
Well, I was just going to tell you, would you believe I've been to Asheville?
Really?
I know, right? I worked at a camp in Asheville, North Carolina.
I've never been there.
What are the odds? That's so funny. So I'm speaking on What If I Can. And when I first talked to Nadeem, he asked me the question, and I said, give me a couple minutes, give me a little bit of time, and I went away. And I think I got back to him within about 12 hours, 24 hours, and I processed it a little bit, and I thought about it, and it came really clear to me that my what if, after I had looked at what everybody else was speaking about, was going to be really personalized. It was going to be really personal to me, and is focused on the transformation piece for me, and that's the whole journey of going from that negative-based thinking and the experiences that I've had where people have told me that I wasn't capable, that I wasn't able to, that my deficits wouldn't allow me to do things, and that in my gut, in my heart, despite the odds, despite what people told me that I couldn't, I can. And that I have the desire, I have the passion, I have the mindset, I have the gifts. I was created to do this and to be exactly where I am, and that I can.
Now that's powerful. I'm just even saying it now, like, yeah, that's cool. So with that said, is there any last few things you want to say about what we talked about, or anything you want to?
Just thank you. Thank you for addressing this. Thank you for acknowledging it, and for finding me, for following those links and the posts. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but I think being acknowledged is a huge thing. So thank you for reaching out to me the way that you did. It's really validating, and I think that validating one another, especially on areas that are so personal, like we said, awareness is huge on topics like this, and validation is huge. So let's just keep doing what we're doing and supporting each other. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I have to say, since you said that, the way that I found Gillian was she actually posted a video of herself and hashtag What If 360, and it was a video, and you can find it through I shared it out on our What If 360 Facebook page and Twitter, or you can find it on your Facebook too. But
Sure.
your video, just that you were sitting in the hallway at your school and talking about
at the university, yeah.
The university, just talking about what if we shared our ideas rather than just keeping them in, and it was very moving to me to hear that, just because I tend to be a dreamer, and a lot of the times I think of ideas of things I could do and where I could go and what things could change, but then I think about that, I'm always coming up with crazy stuff and nobody necessarily wants to hear it, and it may not even go anywhere, so I don't always share. Yeah. So your video was awesome, and so then I stalked you, of course. Yeah. So,
you're one of the better stalkers.
Facebook, and I was looking through your Facebook.
I delete my stalkers.
Well, I'm sneaky. So no, but that's where I found the couple of posts that you had about ADD, which shows that I have ADD, because I was not looking for ADD things, and then I started looking through ADD posts that you posted. Then I started posting things on ADD on my Facebook, and anyway from there, and that shiny object, and I don't know where it went.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thanks a lot. Yeah, and I'm really excited for you to speak at What If 360, because I think you'll connect with so many other people on so many levels. And
thank you. You guys have been so supportive, and the opportunities are fantastic. And I'm going to go watch my daughter play basketball now.
All right, have fun, and thank you so much. And this video will be out on YouTube after this, and then you can share it out live, and you can find you on. Is it GillianSFaith.com?
Yeah, Gillian'sFaith.com. So with an S in the middle.
Okay.
Gillian'sFaith.com and everywhere else.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. Bye.
Bye.